Welcome to another edition of Politics and Random. Is your host. You know, we intend to bring you the best of progressives. Well, today we are honored to have David Zuckerman, who is the Lieutenant Governor of Vermont. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing quite well. I mean, what a great crowd of people. I was here yesterday and just meeting folks who are doing amazing work all over the country, down at the ground level, which is so critical.
Well, you know, it's so important that we start to exert what I call progressive pressure. And the reason why is that most Americans, when you go ahead and forget about labels or anything, ask them who they are, they support the policies that people like yourself, the Lieutenant Governor of Vermont, support. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Boston, but I went to UVM in Vermont. And in '92, I saw Bernie speak on the steps of the library and thought, who is this guy?
Right.
What is this different world of politics? And that inspired me, as obviously he has now inspired thousands and tens of hundreds of thousands all across the country. And I got involved in his campaign and volunteered. And then local folks who were involved in what was then the Progressive Coalition, now the Progressive Party, the most successful statewide third party in the country. Folks asked me to run in 1994. And still a student, I lost, but I won in '96, and I've served for 24 years since then as a legislator for 18 years in the House and the Senate, and for 6 years as Lieutenant Governor. And we in Vermont have really shifted the discussion. In the '90s, the Democrats sort of thought, oh, the progressives are out to take down the Democrats. And progressives said, we're out to become the second major party.
Right.
At that time it was the Republicans as far as scale. And to push these policies and issues for working people and for affordable housing and tackling climate issues and social justice issues. It's not about taking down a party or not. It's this sort of, it's not a game. You know, policies matter. And interestingly enough, since the '90s, when the Democrats had a small majority in the House and a small majority in the Senate and a fairly nascent progressive party, to today, the Progressive Party has grown statewide. I still don't know how, managed to become Lieutenant Governor, and the Democrats have become supermajorities in the House and Senate. And the conversation in Vermont has gone from center-right to center-left.
Right.
Whereas in the rest of the country, while we're still under the sort of duopoly that is, you know, controlled by the media, controlled by massive money, we've seen the country keep shifting to the right. So, I don't know.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is it's not the country shifting to the right, it's the politicians shifting to the right and trying to drag the people along with it. But at the same time, I tell you what, the people are progressive. It's interesting to me that when you take a look at Biden is a true, what I call a neoliberal Democrat. But what is interesting to me is that in order to maintain his power, progressives like yourself and others saved him. And in response, he actually provided the most progressive type of policies since I don't know, maybe Roosevelt.
Certainly in multiple decades, for sure. And, you know, what's really difficult right now is getting that message out to people.
Right.
When you look at what is poorly named the Inflation Reduction Act,
yes,
which really invested billions and billions of dollars in not only typical infrastructure, but actually environmental shifts.
Right.
Whether it was transportation, whether it's investments in energy production and shifts on efficiency. And a lot of those are incentives and supports for working class people.
Exactly.
To be able to get those things. That's been so poorly told. And you know, I'm not a Biden Kool-Aid drinker,
right?
But he's done a lot. And, you know, Bernie has done a lot of advising with him. And out of that last presidential campaign, Biden saw the energy that Bernie had. Not the energy Bernie had, but the energy of the
he brought with him, yes.
Bernie and with Bernie. And so some of them get that, and they're seeing that. Not the majority of them just yet.
Right.
And, of course, the House is an incredibly challenging circumstance. But, you know, in my mind, if Biden stays in, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
And people, I think, do have to get up and go out and do the grassroots work that happened in 2020, because the alternative, as bad as some folks feel Biden might be, whether it's with respect to Israel policy in particular in Gaza, but some other areas, Trump would be thousands of times worse and I'd be worse off. And I'm not an apologist. I think we have to continue to do the hard work to shift our whole system away from binary thinking. You know, one of the things that...
I like the way you said that. I mean, We need people out there that think that way, different frames of references, different levels of indirection. You have to get away from this binary, this duopoly kind of stuff.
Absolutely, and I say this to many of my liberal friends who are still very committed to either the Democratic Party or the current electoral and financial system.
Exactly.
And I point out how good a job we are starting to do to think non-binary with race, non-binary with gender.
Yes.
And I say this to them so that it can, where they have already shifted their mind, they could then maybe create that mindset parallel in politics. Because
exactly.
if you just say, the system's broken, they're like, but it's unchangeable, or this is the only way to do it, or we have to beat the Republicans. I'm like, if the mindset is have to beat the Republicans, as opposed to shifting the system to allow far more voices in, to allow far more perspectives in, and to truly represent where the mass direction of the public is,
exactly,
then we're limiting the scope of the possibility. And I point out that in Vermont, where we have a supermajority, 2 years ago, the Democrats in the House tried to pass a bill that was going to consolidate power as opposed to expand the power.
Right.
And because I helped defeat that, they then defeated the Senate bill that was going to implement a study on ranked choice voting for statewide office. And I said, they're shooting themselves in the foot. The idea should be to expand the choices through ranked choice or any other, expansion of the voting system away from binary system thinking, and really address campaign finance reform and make a robust public system that competes with private so that no one will do the private financing and actually will make it so everyday.
And I think with people like you fighting, now let's get a little bit into your race now, because you have to run for re-election every 2 years. And thus far, you've been hitting home runs every single time. You intend to hit a home run in 2024?
I do. I'm the only statewide office holder that has a primary. The other Democrats don't. So I say that in that phrasing because I run in the Democratic primary.
Right.
Because you can only run in one primary. I win that primary, and then I obtain the progressive nomination as well in order to make sure I can run with both.
Oh,
then
got
in the general election, I run as a progressive / Democrat, which enables me to show people both where I am on the issues,
right,
to be one of the beacons out there for people to see that someone with a third-party label can go into higher office, which I never expected.
Right.
When I first ran as a
you didn't think as a third party you would win.
I thought I'd be in the House, and that's as far as I'd ever get.
Right.
And that's why I stuck my neck out on cannabis reform, environmental issues, election reform, raising minimum wage, universal health care, marriage equality. I thought it doesn't matter what I do. I'm going to never get to higher office. Let me just throw the farthest out issues and expand the discussion. And in Vermont, it was actually possible. And I think it's possible.
But it's the norm. If we could get the non-voter excited,
right,
then that's where the country is.
Yeah. It frustrates me that the United States, somehow we still consider ourselves this sort of hallmark of democracy. And when you look around the world, look what just happened in France. They have a multiple voting round. And so in the first round, the public suddenly saw, holy moly, the right wingers are going to take over. And in the second election, boom, they came out in droves. If you give people a reason to vote, they'll come out and vote. It shouldn't be fear. It should be hope and opportunity.
Yes.
And that's why Bernie, I think, lit such a fire, because he talked about the things people care about in a very real, concrete way, that in a system that creates as much wealth as this system does, why do we have people with unhealthy drinking water? Why do we have people living on the street? Why do we have people that, don't have health care, much less sick care? Health care should actually be before sick care.
Thank you.
Health care is about the food we eat and the quality of what we put in our bodies. Health care is about not working 60 and 80-hour weeks so that we're grinding our bodies down into mush and we're exhausting our minds and creating the mental health challenges. Healthcare is about prevention. Sick care is what is after that, whether we get cancer or as we age, different issues and ailments. And we have to take care of those things.
Exactly.
But we don't view these things through any appropriate lenses, in part because of mainstream media and the corporate money that goes into the left and
that's
the right.
Why that's why we have independent media, because first of all, you get a chance to expand on the things that you really want to say that you don't get to say in 2 or 3 minutes that you get on mainstream media. you get a chance to get into all the other nooks and crannies where people are. I mean, I'm glad that you hit the media, because one of the issues that we have is the media allows the politicians to ill-inform the people. And what our job is to try to make it better. Now, as Lieutenant Governor, what do you do in Vermont?
Well, it's an interesting position because it's considered a part-time job. For one, there's 3 official roles. One is, of course, if something happens to the governor,
you are the governor.
So you have to be ready to do that. Know the issues, know the people across government, know the people in the state. 2, which is the most profile job, is you are the town moderator or the presiding officer of the Senate. And that's about the institution itself.
Right.
Making sure that the rules are actually followed so that every voice within the Senate
is heard, right?
Caveat, is heard, and that the rules are followed, and that sort of shenanigans aren't played. Because if we don't have faith in the institution, then we don't have an institution.
Right.
And that's what is actually also breaking down.
Yeah.
And then the third is this bizarrely named Committee on Committees, which is the Lieutenant Governor and 2 senators that actually appoint the standing committees of the Senate. And there's some policy in that, because who's on which committee is going to ultimately make it what bills sort of get out and what tone do those bills come out. Otherwise, it's really a soft power. So I travel the state and speak a lot. Because I was always an organizer as a legislator, I also have a pretty big email list.
Right.
So I put out newsletters to people across the state around the issues that are in the papers with a little more depth, a little more background, and a little bit more opportunity of how do you reach your legislator to ask them go farther or support this or oppose that. And I generate calls. You know, the very first time I was in the office back in 2017, I got elected in 2016, I put out a newsletter. And I said, here's how you reach your senators and reps. Please reach out to them, tell them how you feel. And in the first couple of days, I had 3 different senators come in and say,
why did you do that?
I hear you're telling people to reach out to me. And it wasn't in a fun tone.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? And I felt like I was doing my job.
Actually, you did, because that's what they're there for. So let me tell you, when do you run for governor?
Well, I did run in 2020 for 10 weeks before COVID hit. And then that was a train wreck.
Right.
You know, our governor did a reasonably good job, and he also distanced himself from Trump. I have a Republican governor. And so he walked back into office. I got crushed. I came back this 2 years ago. He is still in office. He's still, you know, as a Republican, if you say you don't like Trump, you're suddenly idolized by many Democrats.
Exactly.
And he's a very decent human being. I'm not going to throw shade on him. We just disagree on a ton of issues, and he vetoes quite a few bills. There's every possibility that in 2 years that's out there. We'll see what happens. For now, you know, running for re-election, as I said earlier, I've drawn a primary. And the reason I draw a primary is there are those in the Democratic Party who do not want to see me succeed.
Right.
Who do not want me to push the envelope and say, wealthy people can pay more. For instance, we have a housing crisis in Vermont, as in many places.
Yeah.
Vermont had the highest home price increase in the country last year.
Wow.
12% across the board. We have the second highest second home ownership. 16% of our residential properties are second homes. For me, we can do 2 things there. One is the top incomes, over $500,000. There was a proposal in the House to raise their tax by 3% on money over $500,000.
Over 500, yeah.
So if you made $1 million, you'd pay $15,000 more in taxes.
Right.
I think they could handle it. And it would have raised $70 million to subsidize affordable housing in Vermont. The Senate killed it. I'd like to see that talked about again. Second homeowners. For me, I believe those of us with second homes can afford to pay more so those can afford a first home.
Right.
Whether it's rent or own.
Right.
We don't have enough housing for everyday folks. And so, you know, those are the things I'm going to focus on now and keep amplifying. And the climate, Vermont literally just had massive rains from the leftover of that Hurricane Beryl.
That it creamed us. We still are without power in Houston.
So it hit you and it came up, and literally a year to the day of our massive floods from last year, we have massive flooding. There are roads that are completely wiped out. There are 2 people died. Downtown Barrie got flooded again. Thankfully, our capital didn't quite flood this time, but if we don't address the climate, I mean, to me, the most important issues are economic justice issues, the climate, and electoral reform. Because without electoral reform, all the other social justice issues,
everything
all the other
fails.
topics fail. And so I'm just going to keep beating those drums.
Give me a closer.
Well, you know, I am in an election. The primary is on the 13th of August. So if anybody does want to go to my website, zuckermanforv.com, I could use their help. But really the most important thing, just like here at Netroot Nation, is collect with your community members, do things at the local level, improve your community neighbor to neighbor, and collectively push your local legislators to go farther. Get involved. The biggest thing they want you to do is to pull back. And when they say pull back, you go forward and keep working with your allies and build the movement.
David Zuckerman, Lieutenant Governor of Vermont. It was my pleasure to speak to you. I really like where you're going, my friend.
Thank you. I'm
Thank you.
glad to be here. Appreciate it.
Welcome to another edition of Politics and Dynamics. Your hosts, we are honored to have the one and only Jill P. Carter, Senator, State Senator Jill P. Carter of Maryland. How are you doing today?
I'm good. And thank you for getting the Jill P. I do go by that, the Jill Carter, but I love the B.
No. I do what you write down.
Okay.
It says Jill P. Carter. But anyhow, Senator, let me ask you this. First of all, what's your thought about having Netroots, the middle of Baltimore, the most progressive organization in the country?
It's really exciting. I'm super excited that they're here, that Netroots is here. I'm super excited just about Netroots generally, but choosing Baltimore really is inspiring for us here. And I'm hoping some of the progressive policies and spirit will rub off and spread wider in our city. You know, I think we've interviewed before.
I think would it have been in New Orleans maybe?
You want to know what it was?
Where?
In 2019 or 2020, when Elijah Cummings died, I was one of the people in the race to replace him in Congress.
Yes.
You interviewed me in that congressional race.
Yes. I am looking at the name and I'm saying, I know her. Wow, it's a small world, isn't it? It's a small world. But anyhow, tell me about, first of all, you're now senator though.
Yeah, so I was a senator then. I was 2 years in then, I think. I'm 6 years in now.
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
It was a special election.
Right.
Because, you know, Congressman Cummings sadly abruptly died.
Yes.
And then there was a special election.
Yes.
So I didn't do bad in that race though.
No, I know. I mean, a politician never wants to say, why would you do bad? I mean, look, you've been in the delegate, House of Delegates. And you know what happens with progressive candidates often, But you know what? It is good to know that we have progressives that's starting to permeate not only the state houses, but also moving up to the federal levels. What does being a progressive mean to you?
So, as my mom told me a long time ago,
when
I asked her as a kid, why are we Democrats and not Republicans? She said because Democrats generally stand for progress and moving forward.
Right.
Whereas the conservatives, in her view, the Republicans want to stand still, be stagnant, or keep us back to the old policy of the past. And for Black people in America, that means being enslaved.
We know what that means. But we don't even have to say in her view. It is the view, right? It is not her view. It is the view. And I mean, I sit back and watch often whenever a person of color tells me that they're a conservative, I really want to send a psychiatrist over to them. And I know that's not the politically correct thing to say, but I really don't think they understand the real meaning of what conservatism is. But,
Dr. Cornel West, I think, wrote a long time ago in Race Matters that to be a Black Republican is to be schizophrenic.
You gotta be. I mean, and it's not that, I love my Republican friends. I even have MAGA friends. I love them, but they're just wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
I
love that. Yeah.
They're just simply wrong.
100%.
And, I don't try to hurt somebody just because they're wrong.
Exactly.
And that's what we have to learn as progressive. But tell me what you brought to your district. What have you brought? Well, I shouldn't even say to district, but to Maryland.
So I think the answers are different. For the district, we focus every year on what money we can bring for capital improvements and other kinds of things. And of course, we've had some good years.
Right.
This last year wasn't so good. But for a couple of years, especially with the money coming in, from the federal government to states and cities, we were able to bring a lot of resources. I think that's the biggest thing that they want from me in the General Assembly. But I think the overall people, as a Maryland senator, what I've brought is, frankly, a rarity, which is a person who is free to represent and advocate for the people that are usually silenced in the institution of power. And I'm free for a couple of reasons.
Right.
I was born to a civil rights activist and leader.
Yeah, and your father, everybody knows your father well, yes.
I didn't have a choice. It was my DNA.
Right,
That's who I am.
right.
And so I just took that legacy to the General Assembly and never had any confusion. I've never been beholden to a machine or an establishment, always to what I think is right by the people. And that is the thing we need more of, because it's difficult. It's not easy. You have to have a strong core, and you have to believe so strongly in your principles that you are not swayed by the fact that you're not popular with the people you work with.
Exactly. You wonder sometimes why people want to serve. Do they really want to serve the people, or just serve for the title? I mean, you have a great title. State Senator Jill P. Carter.
They give us tags.
You get all of that, it's. But the thing about ultimately, you're there to serve. Ultimately, and that's what you're good at. I mean, in fact, you've been called sort of like a rose in the wilderness or something. No, I'm not kidding you.
That, yeah.
I'm not kidding you. The lone voice in the wilderness. You've been called the lone voice in the wilderness, and it's true. I mean, we don't have people that really put the people first. It's about who gives me some money first. Who are the door? They've had this study that they've shown that doesn't matter what the people want. It's the person who gives the money that actually gets 100%. The vote.
But that money so dominates.
Right.
I've been in politics now for almost 20 years.
Right.
And it is even more prevalent now.
Yeah.
And I want people to understand something so serious. To be considered a viable candidate for Senate in a state race.
Right.
Or even a successful senator, you're expected to have a minimum of $300,000 in your campaign account.
Wow.
Really,
For a state senator.
The high-level ones have millions, and then people, oscillate around 5 to 7 that are like the high-ranking ones.
Right.
What people don't know, let me tell you a secret.
Yeah.
The amount of money you have and raise affects your position in the place. Meaning that if you can raise a lot of money and contribute to the caucus, the Democratic caucus or the leadership caucus,
right,
you're likely to be elevated into higher positions within the body. But if you're someone like me, who has struggled always to raise money, I got to raise from the people primarily. And in the earlier days, I used to it was so much of a hassle. I was just like, I'm just going to pay for stuff myself.
Right.
And I didn't have money. It wasn't worth.
Throw it on the credit card and
for money. I hate that. So anyway, the bottom line is that the more money you have, the more power you amass, even within these legislative bodies.
Well, you know what? I think I still believe in the power of the people. And I here's the funny thing. They're investing a lot of money on TV ads, Facebook ads, and that sort of stuff, right? In a district, I don't know how gerrymandered your district is. I don't know how wide and broad it is. But it's interesting because I've been doing some calculations that prove you could spend a lot less money by hiring a few people who can touch the people flesh and blood and just work it. And there's this stuff called geometric progression, or not even geometric progression, but exponential expansion that you could use and have 10 people talk to 10 people talk to 10 people talk to 10 people. And within 7 levels or so, you've reached your entire base. And I don't see politicians attempting to do that. Now, you're a progressive. I'm pretty sure if somebody comes up with a tool, you'd use something like that.
100%. I love, first of all, the best part of the job.
Right.
I do like the policy work. I like the advocacy, but really I just like the people. And when I go into the district, when I go into the community, and I just talk to regular people that are my voters, residents, it's invigorating because you are reminded that you're not crazy and you're not wrong.
Yes.
They make you think you're crazy.
Right.
When you're advocating for people to have essential things, like I represent Baltimore City. I want them to have water. I want them to not lose their house for a water bill,
right,
and a tax sale. I want them to. I want us to do right by our communities when it comes to fixing the vestiges of mass incarceration,
right,
and give people opportunities.
Right.
You can't just let people come out and give
and not have nothing to do.
You better work, or you're going to violate parole. But you can't work because you got a felony conviction.
It makes no sense, right? It is silly, and that's how many of the laws are written, and that's how many of the laws permit private sector corporations to operate as well. And that's what we need. What again? Progressive politicians who can actually see past all these things. Now, before we close here, what do you expect out of the 2024 election?
2024 election, I expect Biden to win. I don't know. I'm not a soothsayer, but I do believe Biden is the nominee, and that's likely the candidate that's going to prevail. I know there's a movement by some people to say, get him out of there. Let's put Kamala or someone else in there. I think it's too little time. I think he has won before.
Right.
He is flawed. Everybody's flawed. There's no perfect people. There's no perfect candidates. But I will say that there are things I like about him a lot. One,
Right. Well,
he's 1,000 times, 1 billion times better than the alternative.
right.
Two, I like the fact that he's lived real life experiences.
Right.
Though for a long time it was said that he was the least wealthy member of the Senate. He also has had the loss of a wife, the loss of a child.
So he understands.
And his own child facing criminal prison right now.
Right.
And dealing with drug addiction.
Right. So he
really
lived it all.
has had some true lived experiences that are relatable.
Right. I know. Interestingly, as I've spoken to a whole lot of people about, he has provided us with more progressive policies than even. I think he's a neoliberal, but I think he's given us more progressive policies than anybody else.
What president has not been a neoliberal?
Oh man, you are one of the most honest senators I've ever spoken to. You know that? Really? You're one of the most honest politicians. Well, you know what? You stay in trouble because you have the progressive media and the progressive space who have your back. Hey, give me a closer.
Thanks so much for the opportunity. Netroots Nation. If you don't know about Netroots Nation, you should know about Netroots Nation. It is the largest collective of progressive organizations and activists in this country. And they chose Baltimore City. We're Baltimore City. That's where we are right now. I thank you so much for the opportunity, and stay true to the mission. Stay true to the mission, because when we organize and we stay in truth, we win.
Senator Jill P. Carter.
Thank you.
Thank you so kindly for giving me this interview.
Politics Done Right depends on you to keep doing what we do. What do? We make sure to keep, number one, the internet seeded with blogs and information to counter the right and to present what progressives represent for the benefit of us all to everybody, so that it's not misread, misled by any other entity. We make sure and populate that internet with blogs, with videos, with all these other things to make sure that we are informed and to counter everything that you normally hear that are lying at the right. We also make sure to create articles in magazines, articles in newspapers all around the country to ensure, again, that our message gets out there. Last but not least, we also write books. As you see it, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, How to Make America Utopia, are two of the many books that I've written on these issues. So please support us in one of many ways. Numero uno, you can support us at PayPal, either one time or monthly. Go to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. You can support us on Patreon. That is politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon is spelled Patreon. You can support us by becoming a part of our YouTube channel, going to politicsdoneright.com/YouTube, or you can support us in many other forms that you can find at politicsdoneright.com/support. Be sure to visit our store, politicsdoneright.com/store, and get our books at politicsdoneright.com/books. We're here with Mr. Geevarghese. Did I say that right?
Joseph Geevarghese.
I got to read this. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. Joseph
Geevarghese.
Geevarghese. Okay, I get it. Listen, my name is Egberto Willis. I bet you can't say it.
Herberto?
Thank you. I don't feel bad. You mispronounced my name. I mispronounced your name. So we're both from...
We're even.
I'm from Panama.
Right on.
Centro America. You know how that goes. Anyway, tell me about our revolution. What are we into right now?
So our revolution was founded by Bernie Sanders after his 2016 presidential bid. Our mission is to keep the progressive electoral base mobilized over the long term. And really to do three things, right? To elect down ballot progressives at every level of government, to fight for progressive issues like the ones that Bernie ran on, whether it's healthcare for all, whether it's climate justice. And the last part is to make sure we transform the Democratic Party so it's not a corporate-owned Democratic Party, but it's a party that represents the will of the people.
Well, let me just kind of forewarn you. I was a 2016 Bernie delegate. I campaigned
That's
for Bernie.
awesome.
I support Bernie. I am not only support Bernie, but I am also a paid member of Our Revolution, which means I subscribe to the revolution. So, I mean, let me just tell you that we are on the same wavelength. Now, here's what's important, right? I love what you say about we have to decorporatize the Democratic Party. But the other thing that I love and why I think Bernie must be respected so well is Bernie has been pragmatic in his progressivism. In other words, he's caucusing very well with the Democratic Party, and in doing so, along with his flank. And you tell me, I think we've attained more progressive policies under Biden with the support of Bernie than any other president since Roosevelt. Please tell me more.
No, I think that's right. And look, at the end of the day, this is, we're playing an inside-outside game.
Right.
Right. On the outside, we have elected dozens of progressive members of Congress. We have elected thousands of down ballot progressives. All of that put together, right, shows that Bernie's not a lone voice in the wilderness. There's actually a movement. And that gives people like Bernie a real seat at the table when he's engaging with the administration. And that's what's helped us achieve as much as we have. That being said, have we gotten everything we want? No. But it's on us as a movement to keep fighting, to keep organizing, and to make sure the Pramila Jayapals and the Bernie Sanders have a movement behind them when they engage the establishment Democratic Party.
Let me ask you, Pramila Jayapal,
Yeah.
and is Ro Khanna part of that membership as well? The
Yes,
progressive
Ro
movement?
Khanna is a leader in the progressive
and
movement.
AOC, of course.
That's right.
And others. I mean, so what is the position of Our Revolution with Biden right now? Let me just say this. I hope we're promoting, no matter what happens in that resolution, that everybody needs to go out and vote, first of all, and everybody better start voting straight Democratic ticket this election forward. Your thoughts?
So, amen to all of that. I would say Donald Trump and the far right are an existential threat to democracy, and we have to do everything in our power to evict him from any office. And that being said, we surveyed our members. 34,000 people responded. Mm-hmm. These are progressive voters who are activists and donors like yourself.
Right.
And I would say they're the base of the Democratic Party. We surveyed our members, 34,000 people, 70% said that they're not sure that Biden can beat Trump.
Right.
So there's a real doubt in the minds of progressive voters about who is the best person. And it's uncertainty.
Right.
The second part of that is 70% think that Biden should step down. Those are related. At the end of the day, I think we start with the premise that you put forward. We have to get everyone to vote and defeat extremism in our country. And the question for us is, who's the best, the strongest, most energetic candidate that we can put forward to do that? And,
is Our Revolution taking any positions, or they're just sort of letting things play by?
Look, I mean, at the end of the day, Joe Biden and his inner circle will make a decision. Our members have spoken, as have AOC and Bernie.
Let me interrupt. I think AOC came out in full support of Biden.
That's right. That's right.
Just want to make sure. Yeah.
No, that's right. I think, I think the administration, the campaign will take all of that into account as they make a decision about the best course forward.
Let me just say that on our chat, we have, just wanted to say, shout out to Joseph. I'm a big fan of this work for Our Revolution.
Woo!
And I used to attend the meetings regularly during the pandemic. I still attend some of our local Zoom meetings that we have with our revolutions. You know, it's trying to keep it, as you know, these organizations have their lulls where they go through their lulls, and then the politics comes up and it's real active again. What are you finding? Are you finding that the organization is growing? Are you in stasis, or where are we?
Look, at the end of the day, a lot of people just focus on what's happening at the federal level.
Right.
The truth is 1,000 flowers have bloomed since Bernie first ran in 2016.
Right.
There are, one of the panels that I co-hosted this weekend, at this gathering included Megan Green. She was a Bernie delegate in 2016, was so inspired, went back to her hometown, St. Louis, ran for the Board of Aldermen, then became president of the Board of Aldermen, then ran a slate. And we now have in St. Louis progressive control of city government. And they're passing things like union rights, expanding housing, universal basic income. So there's amazing stuff that's happening that may not be on the front page of the New York Times. But what I would say is I think the progressive movement is very vibrant and dynamic at the local grassroots level. And there's a lot of examples like St. Louis all across the country.
You know, it's interesting because everybody talk about the progressive movement as if we have to really move people. I mean, if you detach ideology, if you detach names and all that sort of stuff from all that we believe in, and you ask every American citizen what they want,
yes,
it turns out that what they want is what we are offering.
That's right.
And the thing about it is, what we, in my humble opinion, need to learn how to do is frame a message that doesn't allow the others, both the right and the neoliberals, from phrasing what we are not asking for, what we are demanding, as something we have not earned.
Yeah, that's
because we are the ones who built this country. The existence of billionaires are really things on our backs. So when we're telling them to pay more, we're not asking them to do a favor. We're asking them to return the loot.
Yeah, that's right. I am completely with you. And look, at the end of the day, we the people, right, we want that which is basic. We want a decent place to live. We want food on the table. We want a good job. We want to make sure our kids have a better life than we have. Right. We're not asking for something that's outrageous. We're asking for basic fairness. And that's why we founded this country. We did not want power to be concentrated in a single individual, whether it was a king or a set of private companies, monopolies, right? That was the foundation of this country, was to let every person live out their freedom and autonomy so that they could live the life that they're called to live. And that's what our politics is about in the progressive movement. And I think if you remove all the name calling and the disparaging and you just lay that out, I think 99% of Americans agree with us. And the 1%
look in the camera and give us a closer. Let us know where we go from here.
So, brothers and sisters, where we go from here is we keep fighting. We have made dramatic strides since 2016 in terms of advancing our agenda, whether it's healthcare for all, whether it's climate justice, whether it's union rights, raising wages. And we've got to keep hope alive because we've got to keep organizing to keep winning on the progress that we've made. So for all of the listeners out there, this moment might feel a little self-defeating. We may feel discouraged, but at the end of the day, where we've come in just less than a decade is remarkable.
Joseph, let me tell you, I have no despair. I have no fear. I think we're going to see a landslide that's going to surprise people. And, for all of those that think I am naive, I've been at this for decades. I think the Republicans have laid a pathway that has so inflamed women, inflamed the poor, so inflamed so many, that if we do our job, and I'm talking about our revolution, I'm talking about the progressive movement, I'm talking about everybody, if they do their job, there is absolutely no way we don't clean house from municipalities to states to federal, but we've got to do our job.
That amen to that. In our job, whether as members of our revolutions or just citizens, is to organize.
Absolutely.
And is to have conversations with our neighbors and our friends and our families and organize people to get out and vote and to be active in the public arena. And that's how we win. And that's how we've won all through our country.
Joseph. Okay, let's have a talk. Remember, you couldn't say my name well either. Joseph Geevarghese.
That's getting closer, brother. Geevarghese.
Joseph Geevarghese.
Yeah, that's right.
I got it right.
Thank you so much
kindly.
for having me, brother.
Actually, my brother, thank you for being here. All right.
Cool.
All right, you know what? Let me tell you, before you go, I always have to do this with everybody that gets an interview, right? We have to do this because when I'm processing in the middle of the night at 2 a.m, and my mind go crazy, I got to do it. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
It's great. Keep up the great
All right,
work.
thank you
And,
for having me.
you know, I mean, if you see Bernie, tell him I say hi. I was one of his delegates back in 2016.
That's awesome.
I was in Philadelphia, and actually we were making sure to, you know, we were going crazy in Philadelphia.
Yes.
And I was one of the peacemakers between the delegations. So, I mean, we get things done right. So
we're working the good fight.
We're working a good fight, and we're winning, and you are doing important work. So keep it up, sir.
Right,
Have a good one. Bye-bye. I'm here today with Mitchell Klein. Mitchell Klein is with NOLA AI. Tell me exactly what is NOLA AI.
Actually, we are a software laboratory company focused on building foundational AI products. And we are located in New Orleans, and we actually have a joint venture, which is part of a voter information and intelligence product for the upcoming election that we're doing.
Now, you told me earlier that you really think we are moving too fast with technology, faster than humanity can absorb it. What did you mean by that?
Well, here's what I'm saying, just sort of to back it up. It's just that we're living in an exceptional time right now. And what a lot of people are not thinking about, I realize people today here at this conference are probably thinking about, wow, the world seems really broken and things are not really working. You know, it's especially true in our politics, where we're at this like great impasse in our country, people not getting along, all of that. But I truly believe that a lot of that is happening because everything that was built for last century is basically breaking in this century. These old systems of government and doing things are not able to keep up with the speed and pace of technology that continually breaks business models, right? In our lifetimes, we've seen 4 or 5 different forms of telephone, right?
Right. You were taught. You brought up and said,
right,
"Look,
the
I have
business been
rotary."
broken for telephones 5 different times.
Right.
But now the business model for the internet may be breaking. Like AI may be replacing the internet, and I think I believe that we're definitely facing some sort of human evolution here too, as our biology advances at a great rate, and our machines advance at a great rate. And I think we're about to see 1 million humanoid robots on Earth in the next 5 years.
Right.
A lot of things are going to be changing very rapidly, and I don't think we can count on politics not being one of those things that changes.
Right. And what's your envisionment of what that really means, and also with the technologies that you work on, what do you think that means?
Okay. Well, so what I think it means is I think there's a couple different things that are really important here. One is that a lot of these technologies to date have really been only used to divide people.
Right.
If we look at the situation that happened in the last election, where in the 2016 election with Cambridge Analytica, psychographic profiling, Facebook
I think you should
ads.
explain that because a lot of people don't understand what actually happened there.
What happened there, I mean, essentially nothing different than is what is really going on in the world now, which is that companies know everything about you based on machine learning.
Right.
They're able to predict your personalities and all that. But what was different there is that the folks that were at Cambridge Analytica, in order to try to provide a base to Trump, what they did is they identified the most extreme and angry people in every direction, and they just pitted them against each other and had them fight each other. And you probably remember this period of time when you were like on social media, people would be getting in fights with you that you barely knew, but you'd be incensed.
Right.
And that actually sort of, I think, broke politics in our country, because reasonable people don't want to have fights with their friends all day.
Right.
They don't care that
Well, I mean, in
much.
fact, that's how Congress used to be, right? A lot of people from different political perspectives, they would sit down, they'll have dinner, they'll have their fights in the halls of Congress and go
Yes.
have a drink.
Yes.
All of that is gone because people now think they're mortal enemies, as opposed to we are all looking for the same things at the same time.
It's not rational.
It is.
Okay,
What does that say though about AI versus the brain, the natural
Well,
brain?
what it says is that we've known for a long time that if you just keep repeating the same message to people enough, they will get stuck.
Right.
And that's like what the KGB did. That's
Right.
that's what our
Own CIA,
our intelligence agencies know about war, right? So
right,
people are conducting war as politics right now, and that's part of why things aren't working. But here's the thing. The same technologies could be used to try to find ways to have people get along better and cooperate.
that
right?
is actually a statement of fact.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is there are now people trying to do that. In fact, with our program here at Politics Done Right, we are trying to bring people together. As progressives as we are, we're trying to bring people together, showing that they do share commons.
Most people, regardless of
Political
where they
ideology.
grew up with, their race, everything, most people are good.
Yeah.
Actually, most people.
Actually, right.
Now, I was an organizer in my life for a group called Acorn for 16 years.
I remember
Yeah.
Acorn that was shut
Yeah.
down
Yeah,
illegally.
It was attacked by the Republicans savagely. But my point of saying that is that right now organizing is broken.
Right,
Okay, it's fun. I mean, there's no one at this conference that really does organizing.
right.
They might say they do, but they don't do it. Like, they're not out banging on doors finding new members every day.
And that's the thing. People have allowed the system to do the try to make the system
Yeah.
do the organizing for them, as opposed to creating relationships.
Yes.
The old form of organizing used to be creating relationships, your trust, your sphere of trust.
Yeah.
And the sphere of trust now has become an electronic
And
media.
I think so too. And I think it's done another thing, which I think is that something that we all realize is that if we're constantly segmenting people and saying people act this way if they're this way, they live here, they act this way, they're this race, they're going to vote like this. If we constantly segmenting people and making assumptions, then are we actually just always looking for division, even if our intentions are not bad? And that to me has really driven like a problem in our society where people look harder for what separates them than they look for what's common ground.
That is very true. Now, that does hit a double-sworded area
Yeah, it
when we
does.
talk about identity politics.
It
because
does.
the reason you have identity politics is because identities historically in this country have been
Yes.
treated differently. People, what many on the right have done with identity politics is use the same terminology, the same phraseology you just used, which
Yes.
says if we're looking for division, we're going to get division.
Right.
While
Well,
identity politics,
their thing has been to shut down discussion.
right,
My thing is, okay, if we really want to think about how people are going to get along, we actually have to kind of like lower the temperature in the conversations.
Right.
We shouldn't just start with, I'm angry and here's the most extreme position I can take for every conversation.
right.
What we need to do is like look at the things where we probably can all agree as Americans. And I think that's that's not to say like the problem is that the same people that are trying to shut down everything about discussion, their real agenda is just like racism.
Right.
Right? So they're full of shit.
Right.
So like they're not genuine about it.
Right.
And so it's all just like to me, it's all just like very difficult to discuss because there's also a certain reality that like we don't actually have to always emphasize our divisions.
Right.
And people feel like we have to say that because we're in such a hostile environment.
Right.
Your reaction to that is from the hostile environment we live in.
Exactly.
And your fear of that fact that it could get so much worse. And I think we are in that moment in the world where we're seeing that the systems that protected us for 250 years in our country, for 60 years in our country.
Right.
Okay. First
Thank
200
you.
years were fascist. Okay?
Right.
Besides slavery, other things too. Okay. But the point is, the systems that sort of have protected us for the 60 years
are being deconstructed.
well, they're easy to deconstruct
Right.
because the technology is so much faster.
And even when we talk about AI, someone who knows about AI, what we're talking about is AI taking our collective knowledge, and if our collective knowledge is not benign, how
Yeah.
can AI possibly be benign?
Well, so that's an interesting question, and I'll answer that for you the way I
Yeah.
see it. Okay. So, like 70,000 years ago, humans got language.
Right,
Before then, we were kind of just like other animals where we had small vocabularies.
right,
In that time, we see that societies and great civilizations have come and gone. We see evidence of that.
Right.
Right. Finally, though, after 70,000 years, what we've done is we've managed to understand where every single thing that we say sits in mathematical space,
right,
in a high dimensional space. So I'll give you an example. So it's like you have the word man, and you have the word boy, you have the word king, you have the word queen.
right,
All these four words are all related to each other.
right,
But in high dimensional space, they all have different attributes. And
Right.
you can draw that relationship
right,
and understand the relationships between those words. And then we can actually predict based on frequency of word and other attributes what the very next word should be. That's what AI really is.
right, right,
Right? It's the ability to both predict and get the right word, right? And understand the relationship between the words.
exactly, exactly.
Now, here's the problems we're facing with AI, which I think is really, really significant to the world we're in right now. Really significant. Number one, the voracious pace of technology is sucking up energy.
Yes,
Okay, we think it's about cars. It's going to be about data centers
right,
and crunching this data. And we're, by some estimates, in 20 or 30 years, we're going to need the entire power of the sun, which could, I guess that's fine. We'll invent this thing called the Dyson sphere that collects. the
Oh,
power of
actually,
the
it's
sun. Yeah.
the mathematics is absolute that we can
Yeah.
actually live on solar power
Yeah.
using back-in stores and all of that.
Yeah.
That is also from the solar power, but
Yeah, well, we will have contraptions in space
Exactly.
that capture more and send it back to Earth. We're going to figure a lot of these things out if
Right.
we can make it as a species. But my point is that we're already experiencing some of these very dramatic changes in
Right.
science, and they are changing our relationships to each other, right? So we've had the internet as a primary relationship, and on the internet, it's the Wild West. Pretty much anything goes.
right,
Right? But when you start having AI with predictive analytics and you start reaching for veracity and what veracity really means, which is a common epistemic meaning between humans, right? That I really meant what I said and you really understood what I meant, and then you said something back to me and I pretty much understood what you said back.
because
That-
yes,
That is a theory of mind thing. That is about who has possession of the thought or the item. When we are able to reach that level, and we're able to reach the level of reasoning, true reasoning and curiosity,
when
we're going to. And what I'm telling you is that my company is working on all those things.
Well, look, it's been
So-
a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's been my pleasure speaking to you, and I think this level of discussion is important going forward, especially with the advent of the explosion in AI. So, look,
And I think it's going to be. I think next year, if you're at Netroots, you're going to see
right,
it will be a different conference just because of this.
Mitchell.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to another edition of Politics and Right. My name is Egberto Willis. Today we are honored to have Alice Gachuzo-Colin. Alice,
Yes.
how are you doing today?
I am well. Thank you for having me.
Well, absolutely. So you are representing Get Loud Arkansas. What does
Loud
Get Loud
Arkansas
Arkansas stand for?
Oh, Lord, we are a civic engagement organization. We're a nonprofit, and we focus on voter education, voter registration. We fight voter suppression. We like to give information knowledge. Our job is to empower every citizen of Arkansas with the ability to take back their power through voting. That is what we do.
That's important because Arkansas is one of those states that really try their ultimate best to keep people or to keep some people from voting. And those are the people that they think would have a propensity to vote for Democrats. So I know you're a nonpartisan.
We are a 501c3, so we don't endorse anyone.
Right.
However, we have
You
to be
educate.
real.
That's what 501c3s do. They
That's what we
educate.
And
Right.
so our job is to make sure that, okay, say you don't vote. Why don't you vote?
Right.
Tell me why you don't vote, and then let me educate you on the importance of voting.
Right.
In the state of Arkansas, there are so many people that believe that if you have a felony on your record, you can't vote.
Right.
Well, in actuality, you can. All you have to do is show that you are off of papers, you're off of probation, and you pay your fines. and then you can re-register.
Right.
So there was a time in the state of Arkansas where your probation officers and your parole officers actually had to inform you of that.
Right.
They had to tell you, okay, you're about to be off of paper, now you can register. See, that has been taken off of the books, so they no longer have to let you know that. So our job, what we take as our job, what we make as our job, is to make sure that you know that you have your power.
That is great. I mean, I think if we were to have, or if we continue to get 501c3s like what you have right now out there, really engage in the community. And you know what? Let me tell you this, Alice. Right now, if we look at the amount of money that the people are spending on ads and so forth to try to promote their message, it seems to me it would be a lot more efficient if instead of giving those mega dollars to wide-eye TV ads or Facebook ads that cost a whole lot of money, that investing in 501c3s like you have and others that actually engage the people on the flesh and blood level, on the baseline level, would actually get more done.
The beautiful thing about Get Loud Arkansas is Get Loud Arkansas was started by an Arkansas former state senator, Senator Joyce Elliott.
Uh-huh.
Now, Senator Elliott was in Arkansas politics, like in the legislative senate and on different levels of the House for 20 years.
Right.
This is a black woman in
Right.
the state of Arkansas that
Right.
held that kind of, that position for that long. And so when she, there's a time limit.
Right.
20 years is her limit. She got to go.
Right.
And so she knew that she still wanted to be able to engage,
Right.
and she still wanted to be able to make a change.
Right.
And so she started Get Loud with the intention of making sure that her constituents still saw that she loved them.
Right. Right.
And it's not just hers, it's all of them. Because regardless of what your opinion is, you still have the right to voice that opinion.
Exactly.
That is the democracy. That's America. That's what we have. And that's voting. That's what voting is.
And that's what you stand for.
And that is what we stand for.
I mean, you have Get Loud Arkansas is a nonprofit civic engagement organization founded by Senator Joyce Elliott to fight voter suppression, register new voters, engage low turnout voters, and mobilize communities to use the power of their vote to shape the future of Arkansas.
Because Arkansas is worth it.
Actually, let me tell you, I've been to Hot Springs a few times. I've been to the lake. I've been to the fisheries that you had out there. You have a lovely state. And, you really have a lovely state. And when you get into the mountains and
You can get
drive,
lost. It's so gorgeous.
it's beautiful. And there's a place you can actually, I think, go hunt diamonds or something like that.
That is, that's a little bit past Hot Springs.
Right.
But it's the Diamond Crater, and it's like the only place in the country, actually.
Right.
That you can actually just go and camp up and dig. And if you find a quarter-carat diamond, it's yours.
It's
If you
yours.
find a 5-carat diamond,
It's yours.
and it's free. And,
Yes.
I mean, it's free. And so, yeah, we have a lot of gems.
No kidding,
With
in
our
more
gems,
ways than one,
We
right?
have a lot of gems
Yeah.
with our gems, but we have a lot of politics
Right.
that need to change. And the only way that those politics are going to change is if we get folks mobilized and get them voting and actually make them understand that you may not see the importance today, but sit back a minute.
Right.
Just wait a minute. Something is going to strike.
Right.
And when that time does, we want to be here. And another thing that we speak on is we speak on purge.
Absolutely.
A lot of people don't understand that, we give classes on how you can prevent yourself from being purged. A lot of people don't even know that they will actually kick you off the registration list.
I know.
You will go,
and then you go vote and you can't.
And you can't vote.
Without even informing you officially.
They send you a piece of paper that looks like this, and you get those little.
And you throw it in the trash. Exactly. Exactly.
But in actuality, if you don't vote in 2 federal elections, they will. Your state has the
Right to take you off the list.
That is Arkansas's law. Each state has their own law, but that is Arkansas. And so that's something that we teach on. We have text banks specifically for lists, and we text. We don't care.
So when you get a purge, when you find out there's a purge, you find a way to directly engage those people.
We engage them.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Let them know you are in danger of your registration being taken out. All you got to do is push this button and you reach.
Alice, and that's what I'm saying. I think we need to get more people realizing that their money would go much further if they invest in groups like you all instead of putting all that money on TV ads that just go blast out.
Get
and
Loud is a...
And that's what you're doing.
We're 7. It's 7 of us.
Yes,
it's
that is
7
great.
Of us. It's not 10, it's not 100. We don't have big corporations. It's 7 of us. And we just are...
Get Loud. Alice Gachuzo-Colin. It's been my pleasure to speak to you. And I want to say, igualmente, muchas gracias. And let me tell you, continúa con ese trabajo, por favor. Adelante. Okay. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we